The naval hall was silent in the way only military spaces can be. Rows of pressed uniforms stood in perfect symmetry. Medals reflected the overhead lights. Boots were aligned. Posture was disciplined. Bruce Lee had been invited to demonstrate technique, nothing more. A civilian martial artist on a military stage, he moved lightly across the polished floor. Short steps, controlled breathing, small demonstrations of balance and speed. Some sailors leaned forward with curiosity. Others watched with folded arms. To some it looked impressive. To others it looked like performance. Then a voice cut through the hall. "If you're that fast, fight a real man." The words were not shouted. They didn't need to be. Heads turned immediately. A Navy SEAL instructor stepped forward from the formation. Broad frame, measured posture. Eyes steady, unreadable. He wasn't smiling, he wasn't joking. He simply walked into the open space. The ceremony stopped feeling ceremonial. It felt like a test. Bruce turned toward him calmly. No irritation, no ego. The instructor stopped 3 feet away. "Demonstrations are clean," he said evenly. "Let's see it when someone doesn't cooperate." The challenge was public. Officers in the front row did not move, but they were watching closely now. Bruce nodded once, then stepped forward. 7 seconds later, the entire hall would feel different. The instructor removed his gloves slowly. No theatrics, no anger, just intention. He stepped inside Bruce's range immediately, eliminating space. Close enough that movement would have to be precise. He moved first. Fast, direct, military sharp. A compact forward strike designed to overwhelm. Bruce did not retreat. He shifted half a step to the side. Not backward. Sideways. The strike cut through empty air. Before the instructor could reset, Bruce's lead hand redirected the wrist. A small adjustment. Nothing dramatic. His other fist stopped inches from the instructor's chest. No impact. Just position. Close enough to make the point. The hall did not erupt. It went quiet. Because what they had just seen was not flashy speed. It was timing. The instructor stepped back half a pace. Not shaken. Recalculating. He had entered cleanly. His structure had been correct. Yet Bruce had erased it without force. And that was only the beginning. The silence after that first exchange was not confusion. It was evaluation. Military culture does not react emotionally. It observes. It measures. Senior officers stood with unreadable expressions. Decorated men who had spent decades in command did not shift in their stance, but their attention sharpened. This was no longer a demonstration for entertainment. This was civilian skill being tested under military authority. Bruce Lee stood alone in the open space. No rank, no uniform, no badge to shield perception. The instructor represented something different. He represented discipline forged under pressure. Structure taught for survival, not performance. A system built for confined spaces and unpredictable resistance. If Bruce hesitated now, the room would see it. If he overreacted, it would look like disrespect. If he failed, it would confirm every quiet doubt that demonstration fighters rely on cooperation. The tension wasn't loud. It was institutional. Civilian philosophy versus military structure. Speed versus pressure. Fluidity versus control. And every man in that hall understood what was at stake. The instructor adjusted his footing slightly. Not aggressive. Grounded. Bruce mirrored nothing. He remained narrow in stance, shoulders relaxed, breathing even. To an untrained eye, it might have looked casual. To trained eyes, it looked deliberate. The distance between them felt smaller now, not physically, psychologically. The instructor stepped forward again. No words this time, just pressure. The man standing across from Bruce was not a random sailor seeking attention. He was an instructor in close-quarters combat, trained for confined environments, used to spaces where hesitation costs position. His movements were compact by design. No wide swings, no dramatic motion. Military combatives are built on efficiency. End the exchange quickly. Control the opponent. Maintain dominance of space. He had sparred with hardened men, men who resisted, men who did not freeze under pressure. He had tested techniques against force, against resistance, against unpredictability. From his perspective, speed shown in demonstrations often disappears once someone refuses to cooperate. Close distance, collapse space, force reaction. That was the formula. He watched Bruce carefully now. Not his hands, not his face, his shoulders, his weight distribution. Looking for telegraph, looking for the tiny pre-movement cues that signal intention. Bruce did not give them. His breathing stayed steady, his eyes calm, his lead hand relaxed but alive. The instructor stepped inside range again. Short entry. Compact strike. Bruce shifted offline with minimal motion. The instructor corrected instantly. Good fighters adapt quickly. He increased pressure. Another entry. Tighter, more committed. Bruce's lead hand met the wrist again. Not blocking. Redirecting. The instructor tried to trap and close. Bruce pivoted and restored distance by inches. The difference was subtle, but it was beginning to register. The instructor's structure was sound. But Bruce was not reacting. He was arriving early. That realization was forming slowly. And in high-level combat, slow realizations are dangerous. The instructor's pride was not loud, but it was real. He believed in his training, believed in pressure testing, believed that speed without structure fades when contact becomes real. He stepped forward again. Not to embarrass, to confirm. Because if Bruce Lee's speed was real, it would survive resistance. If it wasn't, this moment would expose it. Bruce did not train to react. Reaction is already late. By the time you respond, you have accepted your opponent's timing. That was something most systems overlooked. He had questioned it for years. Why wait to block a strike that hasn't landed yet? Why brace for impact when you can intercept intention? While others practiced rigid forms, Bruce had studied motion. Boxers shifting weight before throwing a punch. Fencers committing with their shoulders a fraction before extension. The way tension travels through the body before action begins. He had become obsessed with that fraction, that invisible moment before force exists. His stance in the Naval Hall looked relaxed, but it was engineered. Weight slightly back to allow forward burst. Lead hand alive on the center line. Rear hand guarding, not rigid, but responsive. He did not widen his base like many traditional stylists. He stayed narrow for mobility. He did not chamber his fists at the waist. He kept them ready, closer to the target. Everything about his posture reduced delay. The instructor believed that closing distance removes speed. Bruce believed that closing distance reveals hesitation. Because when someone commits fully, their structure locks into a line, and that line can be intercepted. The difference between reacting and intercepting is not strength. It is awareness. Bruce was not trying to overpower the instructor. He was measuring rhythm, watching breath, watching weight transfer, waiting for the exact moment when commitment outruns control. The instructor stepped in again. Short strike. Bruce shifted early. Not fast. Early. That difference is what the room was beginning to feel. Bruce wasn't moving faster. He was moving sooner. And sooner always feels like faster to the observer. The instructor stopped briefly. Not from fatigue, from calculation. He spoke again, voice steady but firm. Fight like a real man. The words carried differently now. Not just challenge. Expectation. Several sailors glanced toward the front rows where senior officers stood. No one intervened. The space had been allowed to evolve. Bruce met his gaze. Calm, unblinking. A real man commits, the instructor continued. Speed fades when someone drives through. Bruce didn't answer immediately. He stepped half a pace forward instead. reducing the distance himself. That movement changed the tone. He was not avoiding pressure. He was inviting it. The instructor's jaw tightened slightly. Not anger. Focus sharpening. He stepped in with greater force this time. Compact combination designed to overwhelm. Bruce slipped inside the second strike. Minimal motion. His shoulder rolled just enough to erase impact. The instructor felt the near contact, felt the positioning shift. The crowd felt it too. This was no longer symbolic movement. This was testing. Bruce's lead hand tapped the instructor's shoulder lightly. A signal. Space was not controlled yet. The instructor reset. Breathing steady. Pride engaged now, not loud. Internal. He believed in resistance. Believed in structure under pressure. And he was about to increase both. The ceremony had become something else entirely. Not demonstration, not spectacle, a comparison of systems. And the next exchange would not be light. The instructor stepped in without pause this time. No probing, no measured entry. He drove forward with structured force. Compact strike to collapse distance. Bruce shifted offline early. Not dramatic, just enough. The strike cut air again. The instructor adjusted instantly. Second entry. Tighter, more committed. He attempted to crowd Bruce, reducing the lateral movement. Remove mobility. Force reaction. Bruce's lead hand met the wrist and redirected. Small motion. No wasted effort. The instructor attempted to trap and step through. Bruce pivoted. Angle restored. The crowd began to sense something subtle. The instructor was initiating. Bruce was arriving. Each exchange felt slightly faster than the one before. The instructor changed rhythm. Feinted high, drove low. Compact combination. Bruce read the shoulder tension before the motion completed. He slipped inside the line and tapped the ribs lightly. Not a strike, a marker. The instructor felt it. Reset. He exhaled slowly. His structure was sound. His timing disciplined. Yet he was consistently half a fraction behind. He stepped in again. More force. More commitment. This time he attempted to pin Bruce near the boundary of the ceremonial floor. Remove escape routes. Force collision. Bruce shifted laterally. Never straight back, never cornered. His footwork was economical, short, precise. The instructor pushed harder. Now it was visible. The effort, not anger, but intensity rising. He launched a compact combination meant to overwhelm with volume. Bruce slipped inside the second strike. Shoulder turned. Foot planted. He did not counter fully. He waited. That restraint was deliberate. He was allowing the instructor to reveal rhythm, to commit fully. The instructor stepped back a half step, breathing steady, eyes narrower now. He had felt the pattern. Each time he entered, Bruce was positioned early. Each time he committed, space disappeared. That realization began to create something dangerous. Hesitation. The instructor did not show doubt outwardly, but internally, something shifted. He understood pressure, understood resistance. But this felt different. Bruce was not reacting. He was anticipating. Every commitment met an answer before it formed. The instructor recognized the pattern. And recognition slows rhythm, even by a fraction. Bruce saw it immediately. The breath change, the slight delay in shoulder tension, the smallest pause before entry. That fraction was all interception requires. The instructor made a decision. If hesitation had begun, he would remove it entirely. No more testing. No more partial commitment. Full drive. Full pressure. End the comparison. He stepped forward, ready to commit completely, and that commitment would last 7 seconds. The instructor stepped in with full intent. No half measures. No probing. He drove forward with structured force, chest closing distance, arms tight, shoulders committed. This was not a test entry. This was a finish entry. A compact forward surge designed to overwhelm and collapse space completely. Bruce did not retreat. He did not widen his stance. He shifted his weight back half an inch. The instructor's lead arm fired forward. Bruce's hand snapped to it instantly. Trap. A sharp inward rotation of the wrist, subtle but decisive. The instructor attempted to power through. He had trained for resistance, trained to drive through contact. Bruce pivoted offline before the force could settle. His right hand shot straight down the center line. It stopped 1 inch from the instructor's nose. No contact, but perfect alignment. The instructor tried to recover, shifting his weight to regain structure. Bruce stepped to the blind side. Second strike, ribs. Stopped. Third, throat. Stopped. Each movement direct. Each line open. No wasted motion. 7 seconds. The instructor attempted to re-anchor his base, but the sequence was already complete. Not because he was weak, not because he lacked discipline, but because his commitment had outrun his timing. The hall was completely silent. No applause, no murmurs. Senior officers watched without expression. But they had seen it clearly. The instructor had committed fully. Bruce had dismantled the commitment without excess force. Bruce released the trap smoothly. Stepped back, hands relaxed, breathing unchanged. He did not celebrate. He did not look around for approval. He simply waited. The instructor adjusted his posture. Not shaken, not humiliated. Recalibrated. He understood exactly what had happened. He had not been overpowered. He had been intercepted. And in military terms, losing initiative is losing control. The instructor gave a short nod. Small, but visible. Good timing, he said quietly. Not sarcasm. Recognition. Bruce inclined his head slightly. It's not speed, he replied. It's interception. The word carried weight. Several sailors exchanged subtle glances. The comparison had ended without chaos, without ego explosion, without spectacle. The ceremony slowly resumed. Commands were called. Formation restored. But something had shifted in perception. The lesson was not about military versus civilian. It was not about rank. It was about initiative. Military training teaches reaction under pressure. Bruce's philosophy focused on removing the need to react. Most fighters wait for the strike to begin. Bruce answered intention before it matured. That difference feels like speed. But it is not speed. It is preparation meeting decision. The instructor had believed that closing distance would erase advantage. Instead, it revealed hesitation. And hesitation, even microscopic, is enough. 7 seconds. That was all it took. Not to embarrass, not to dominate, but to demonstrate. Authority had tested philosophy, and philosophy had survived pressure. Bruce Lee did not leave that hall louder. He left it the same way he entered. Calm. Controlled. Unchanged. Because for him, it was never about proving strength. It was about proving timing. And in any system, military or martial, timing decides control. Underestimate it, and 7 seconds is enough to shift an entire room.